I'm Donald Jantz, and I kind of started a group of post-secondaries from across Alberta, as well as beyond. Oh, there's Katie, and I'm doing double duty here, so hopefully it's not too distracting for you. I have got together our post-secondaries and started talking with Francois. Initially, we just wanted to learn about what was done with the educational institutions that are part of the CPC and how they have bought into a project, the Bullwind Creek project, to buy collectively wind energy. And basically their willingness to buy into that has allowed a pretty big wind farm, 29 megawatts, to be constructed. And what we realized is we'd like to do something similar, or potentially. I mean, that's what we're kind of discussing me with Francois about. They've proven what can be done, and we'd like to see if that's possible. So this group that we've got going, we meet quarterly, first Wednesday of every quarter in August, November, February, and May, to have our members present what things they're up to, usually around sustainability, but often around energy efficiency and different types of operational issues that are affecting facilities. And one of the issues that came up that was of interest was the potential to individual institutions are looking at and often already buying or bought into power purchase agreements where they buy, specific amounts of renewable energy for their facilities. If we do it collectively, we can have a different level of impact, and we can also reduce our costs. So just to give an overview, I've provided some information in the agenda, which some of you may have had a chance to look at, but the Collaborative Purchasing Consortium of educational institutions, not post-secondaries, probably primary and secondary schools, have collectively gone in, starting in 2017, 18, in the Bull Creek Wind Blue Earth Renewables project. And again, we're considering trying to follow their framework. And I've actually kind of separately spoken to a number of the largest renewable energy developers across Alberta, Blue Earth, Green Gate Power, and Capstone Infrastructure. They all have projects in the works that they would really like to get some post-secondaries involved in. So what I found out is they can actually take us on individually or as a group almost quite easily. The more that we collectively buy into projects, the better the price and the better the terms. So that's important. But there's also different back-end issues around managing the financial aspects, and Blue Earth is really experienced at that. The other developers are also interested in that. Some other ancillary benefits that I think are particularly interesting to post-secondaries are the interest of each of these, and they're not just they're very interested in engaging with our students and our staff and academics, providing internships, providing tours, access to data for our researchers, and implementing up-and-coming technology that might be of particular interest to our post-secondaries. So there's a number of ways, beyond just the financial savings and stability, that this kind of process can be of interest. So that's kind of the background. Everybody's here now. We've got a decent group. I think what would be great is, and I think we have time for it, and thanks to everybody who's filling out that poll I've got going. If you can do that, that would be great. If you could, I think we'll go around the room and I'll pick you out, and you can just tell us where you're from, what your interest is in meeting with this group, and that'll help us be able to present what will be most valuable to the group. So I'll just kind of go around on my screen. Daryl, would you like to tell us a little bit about Edmonton Public School Board?
Hi, everybody. I'm Daryl Kaminsky, Energy Coordinator for EPSB. We're doing generation on site. We will this year have 24 solar installations generating about 5+ gigawatt hours per year. It's a pretty good number, but it's not big enough yet. So we are looking to possibly green our electricity or a significant portion of it. So we've been looking into power purchase agreements and how that might work for us. And now this consortium model as well.
Wow, I hadn't realized 5 gigawatts. That's fantastic.
Gigawatt hours.
Gigawatt hours, yeah, okay, absolutely. Thanks for that. Tom.
Hi, I'm Tom Ranieri. I'm with Olds College. So Olds College, we're sort of a little bit behind the wheel here a little bit on this, and we are in the process of developing a sustainability plan for the college, and part of it obviously will be looking at procurement of renewable energy and installation of renewable energy kind of technology on campus. So we're in early days, but we're hoping to make progress in the next couple of years.
Excellent. We all are really pretty new to this, and we can learn from each other whatever stage we're at. So no, we appreciate you engaging, and hope this hope we can work out something, because it'd be valuable to all of us. Jason, are you available? I know you said to text. Maybe you won't be able to actually be here. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, morning. So I'm Jason Schuler with Northwest College with facilities operations. So good to see some new people and some old faces as well. But so we're, I guess, maybe midstream with our renewable energy. So we actually just executed a 6-month agreement for offsetting our entire electrical consumption for July to December this year, and probably going to renew that to do January to June of next year. So that's a pretty big thing for us. And the other piece is we're on a fixed price agreement with the retailer right now that expires June of 2024. So we're actually looking to go out to tender again for more of the conventional fixed price. So it's kind of an important time frame for us of whether there's going to be the critical mass to go down this virtual PPA and partnering and whatnot. So curious to kind of see. We're definitely interested, I think, and I think Trevor's on the call with us today. So I don't think we necessarily have the momentum internally yet to go there, but curious to just see, get more info. So thanks.
Excellent. No, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the work you've done to kind of get your fully offset. That's quite an accomplishment. Congratulations. And we have lots then that we can learn from you as well. So I appreciate you being on the call. Elena, can you tell us about the public school board in Calgary?
Hi, everyone. Olena Olofsson. I work as the sustainability coordinator at the Calgary Board of Education, and just keeping my ear to the ground on current and future opportunities. We just released our 2030 sustainability framework, which has targets around energy and GHG reduction. So these types of initiatives fall in line with that. Thanks.
Excellent. Congratulations on releasing that. I hope we can help you. Emmett, would you be able to tell us a little bit?
Hi, Emmett Boyle from the University of Regina. We're about 2/3 of the way through a carbon reduction technical pathway study, and we're hopeful that that'll give us some good guidance on how to move forward. So I'm really just here to learn a little bit about what's out there and what are some options as we get to the end of that thing. So here to learn.
Excellent. Welcome. Thanks for coming. I don't think we've met before, so I really appreciate you being able to be available. And I'm very curious to learn more about your study. So I'll be touching base, because there may be opportunities for you to present that to the group. There's a few institutions that are at different stages of that type of work, and it'd be really interesting to hear from what you guys are up to. So thanks. Stephen, how are you?
Hi, Stephen Leindyke with MacEwan University Operations and Maintenance team. We have some initiatives underway, and we're looking at several more initiatives at MacEwan University. We have a solar array on one of our buildings to basically do a study on potential and possibility of solar in the downtown core of Edmonton. That being said, we're looking at expanding that solar array onto a new building that we will be constructing over the next 2 or 3 years, the School of Business. We also are involved in the installation of a couple of EV chargers. And there's some City of Edmonton downtown initiatives that we're looking at partnering up with them on.
Excellent. No, I appreciate those things. And I am connected in as well with those EV chargers, so I appreciate getting that in. And if there are institutions that are considering installing EV chargers, please let me know. I've got some funding through another contract that I'm working on to provide, half the cost of installing EV chargers. So it's something a number of post-secondaries have taken advantage of. And we'll have another couple $1 million coming available early in the new year. It kind of sells out quickly. So something that can be a real benefit to students. But thanks to those, Stephen, I really appreciate it. Amy from Bow Valley College.
Hi, everyone. As Donald mentioned, my name is Amy, and I'm a sustainability coordinator at Bow Valley College. We're in the final stages of our climate action plan. It should be finalized by the end of July. So a PPA or doing something with our scope 2 emissions around our electricity is going to be a big part of our work over the next few years. So yeah, just here to continue learning. And I'll also be at the July 25th meeting because I feel like I might need to hear it twice. So nice to see everyone.
Yes, I think that's true. There are a few people who are coming to both, and I think that could be quite valuable in terms of progressing the conversation quickly. So I appreciate that kind of engagement. And thanks, Amy. You've been a real big help in putting this all together, kind of driving it. So appreciate that. T. Carlson, could you tell us a bit?
Yes, good morning. My name is Dwayne Reed Carlson. I'm president of EDC Associates Limited, a Calgary-based power and gas consulting firm. We were the originators of the Bull Creek Wind Project for the CPC school divisions that Francois is going to speak to you about this morning. So we've been around for 30 years and been working for the CPC and helped aggregate them into the CPC actually since 2003. So we've got a long-standing history with the education part of the MUSH sector within Alberta. So interested to hear what you guys are up to.
Thanks. No, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Katie from Concordia.
Hello, everybody. So I'm Katie Mallard. I'm with Concordia University. I'm the Sustainability and Partnerships Officer. So at Concordia, we are in the beginning stages of implementing our climate action plan. Part of that, we want to do a baseline assessment for our residence buildings and potentially some other buildings that we have on campus. But for right now, definitely just kind of understanding our usage and potentially, being involved in the PPAs. Really interesting, and I'm happy to be here.
Welcome. Yep, I'm glad you can be here, and it's good timing for you. Hopefully this can help you consider some options that'll help you Concordia and its goals. And appreciate that work you've done on your climate action plan. Hope everybody's had a chance or is starting to put those kinds of plans together. And certainly there's resources here at Sustainable Campus Collaborative to help you with that if you're starting on that journey. And I think our last person I want to bring in here is C. Mochia. I'm sorry, I'm not sure. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. My name is actually Corrine, and I work with Daryl. I'm the Director of Infrastructure Supports and Operations. As Daryl previously mentioned, which is funny, he went first, I went last. Was that on purpose? We are definitely looking to start out renewing our resources. We will have 24 schools that do have solar on them by the end of the year, so that's awesome. Just interested to find out how this venture can perhaps help us move forward. We are actually just this year joined the Edmonton Corporate Climate Leaders Program, and definitely are working on our plans and initiatives to reach our targets to definitely reduce our greenhouse gases. So I feel like this is a good potential fit. So really interested to hear how this could help us.
Excellent. No, I appreciate that, and also appreciate the great work that the CCLP is doing, and glad to hear you're part of that. They're doing a lot of great work in Edmonton, and the leadership that you guys are providing in the community is tremendous. Yeah, thanks for that. So I think that then, with no further ado, the whole reason we're here, if I haven't missed anybody, is now to hear from Francois to provide kind of some insight into their Bull Wind project and how we might be able to work together.
Okay, thanks. Again, I'm Francois Gagnon. I'm the Secretary Treasurer or CFO of the Fort McMurray Catholic School Division. I've been doing this for the last 25 years, and I've also been the chair of the commodity purchasing group or consortium, the CPC, that actually has about. I've been chair of this organization for the last. I don't really remember, about 10 years, I suspect, and I'm still the chair of it. Again, going back to the formation of the CPC, which is really important because, again, you need to have a consortium in order to group together. You need to have some kind of an organization and some membership and some bylaws and policies as a different organization in order to give the mandate for someone or a group of individuals. In our case, we have an elected executive committees that actually is elected every year at our AGM. We have bylaws, again, that we put in place in 2003. And the reason why we formed this group is right after the deregulation of electricity in Alberta. Then all the individual school division didn't really know how to deal with it. And we were really at the mercy of the individual energy companies as far as to sign or not signing contracts and what was it a good deal or not. And then we ended up hiring our own consultant individually, which again adds the cost quite a bit. So again, we've contracted Dwayne Reed Carlson from EDC Associates since the formation, and again he's been helping us to form this consortium. And again, we've been actually purchasing electricity and also purchasing natural gas as a group since the again 2003, 2005. Again, different type of PPA. Most of them were again just a regular type of PPA of as far as energy is concerned as we move forward. And then in about 10 years ago, or maybe 2012, again there was an opportunity as far as actually going in the renewable energy. So again, the first step that we did is, again, we built a business case. So again, that would be the first step, again, from our point of view, was there a business case, again, that actually takes into consideration the type of energy that we're buying, when are we buying in, when are we consuming it as a group, and again, what is the forecast as far as the electricity market. And again, we're focusing on Alberta, obviously. For us as a group, what's the forecast as we move forward? And again, was there any opportunity? And again, the business case that we developed at that point showed that there was obviously an opportunity for us to actually go and do something as far as renewable. So our next step is, again, we surveyed our members, and there certainly was an interest. And then we did a request for proposals to the main players. And again, some of the companies that you've talked about, again, were people that actually did to actually. It wasn't really it was more a request for information, actually, just to people who would be interested to work. We want to select someone who we wanted to work with to develop the project, and it was non-committal, obviously. And again, we selected Blue Earth Renewable as our partner. And the main reason for selection of Blue Earth Renewable is, again, that they were, there was an open book negotiation. So, so again, we did the work as far as finding out the load, again, Dwayne has the right terms. Again, when he talks about energy, I don't have the right terms. I kind of don't have all the right terminology, but basically we provided them all the information that we had, and again they shared with us, you know, the return of investment that they would need, and again we built the case together, correct? So the bottom line is we agreed on a return of investment for the projects because they would be the owner. They went out and again found out where the best location would be. They're the one that actually worked with the financial market to find the lenders. And I think one of the big lenders at that time was the Teachers Retirement Fund in Ontario, that actually were one of the major lender and actually owner of the project. And again, when we put all the numbers together, then depending again on the number of individuals that were able to wanted to join the project, but also the interest rates and the financing, again, we came up with a cost for 25 years that actually would provide the return on investment that actually we agreed to do, and again gave us a 25-year projects. They took the risk, obviously, of building a project. They took the risk of running the project. So the return of investment is not guaranteed, obviously, as the production of energy is obviously not guaranteed. From our point of view, the risk that we took, again, we agreed that we would buy the entire production of the wind project. So basically, although we're not the owner technically of the wind project, we buy all the power that is generated by the project for the next 25 years. And again, the shortfall or the surplus, again, are sold to the market, to the grid, or bought from the grid, and then we are responsible to pay the ups and the minus as far as that's concerned. And again, that's done on an hourly basis. That's my understanding. And Dwayne can correct me again if I'm out in left field. And again, there was also an option for us as school division to purchase, to invest in the project. So the school division actually owned 25% of the project. So we've invested money in the project. And again, we get the guaranteed rate of return for the next 25 years on the actual project. And again, that's all done with Blue Earth. And again, there's a lot more details, correct, as far again as the retailing, the building of the projects, which again is handled by Blue Earth Renewable. The other aspect of it again are the renewable credits based on the generation. And again, these actually are owned by the school divisions. So basically, Blue Earth actually, comes up with the amount of REC on an annual basis. And again, that has to be verified. And it's a very complicated process, complex process from what I understand. And again, with them and with Dwayne, we negotiated a long-term contract to sell those REC at a fixed price I think we have a contract until 2027, whereby we at the time, again, the REC were worth $15 a ton. And again, as the price went up since then, and again, the agreement was the fact that we actually, the price would increase by 50% of whatever would go up. So obviously we're actually collecting additional money as the year go by, as far as the value of the REC actually go up. And all that money goes back to the school division. to offset some of the firming costs that again we have to deal with. And again, the renewable energy is a little bit more expensive, or was a little bit more expensive, obviously, than just the regular brown energy that you could get at that time. So basically, that's where we are right now. I mean, our project actually started in about 5 years ago, I believe. I kind of lost track of time, and again, it's a 25-year contract. And again, we're still exploring other options as far as increasing value to the project. Again, 25 school division actually chose to join the project, and then the CPC also negotiates on behalf of the other school division that are part of the CPC on a regular type of PPA as far as so we do that work for them. And again, they have a contract coming up very soon, and then we're going to have to go back to the market. And again, I think Dwayne has indicated to us that the terms may not be as favorable as they were the last time we went out to the market. So as we all know, in Alberta. So Dwayne, do you want to add anything that maybe of value to the group? Or
probably the most important thing to add, although you've done a very good job, Francois, is that in anticipation of future rising energy costs and future rising carbon policy creation and implementation of carbon pricing and all of that was anticipated in the early 2000s and implemented in Alberta with specified gas emitters regulation in 2007. So the whole concept behind the project was to enter into a long-term agreement for energy to give long-term stable pricing to the budget constraints of the school division so that they could budget on a better case basis and volume buy through a large acquisition to reduce the cost relative to what individual retail contracts would have begot them by themselves. And the secondary thing was to also, because power prices would be influenced by carbon policy that we knew was coming, but we didn't know by how much or how quickly. But we knew it was eventual, not it was not if, it was when. So the carbon contract or the energy contracts that school divisions and everybody else for that matter have signed over the last decade and even now still today, they all have clauses in them that have an escape clause for increased carbon or changes in law is really how they're referred to. And a change in carbon policy is effectively a change in law. So those would be passed through. So moving into the renewable project was a way to hedge not only the energy costs going forward, but to future hedge and insulate school divisions from carbon policy that would ultimately find its way through energy contracts, even contracts that were signed. So in today's world where we stand today, what the school divisions through Francois, his leadership, and the management committee on behalf of their membership, it demonstrates that they're now well in the money relative to what the current markets are and where they're headed, and have fixed a problem that would have reared its head every 3 to 5 years as they went through retailing for new energy supplies. So kudos to them for being brave and taking on what we were told then was impossible. And Donald, to your point, that we had to go through a couple of steps to show proof of the concept. We did a mini pilot initially with 3 school divisions, and then went on to the broader project. So that was really what was behind what they were doing, and it shows today that they made a right decision at a time when people said they were doing something that they shouldn't and couldn't.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate that. That was excellent comments, and I really appreciate that that work that's been done. And I know that some of our institutions were part of those discussions. See, Jason, were part of those discussions and maybe didn't sign up, but now it might be more possible. I think the other piece of it, kind of from my financial background, is signing a long-term contract. It sets in what your costs are going to be for a long time, and there's going to be ups and downs in markets and pricing. But a lot of what our post-secondary and educational institutions are dealing with is having some certainty around their budgets. It's not easy. It can be quite a difficult risk to manage when your budget, even when you're saving money, it can be a windfall, but it creates issues. Knowing what your budget looks like over the long term and knowing that it's a good price Sometimes it'll save you money, and in this situation, in this last bit, obviously it saved quite a bit, or maybe even made money. But making that stability of financial commitment is often going to be of actual significant value as well. So I think it has the potential to deliver value in a number of ways. So I appreciate that. So I think now is the time. Thanks for providing that overview. Now is the time to provide a chance for folks to ask questions that they might have, which I'm sure some of those are out there.
Maybe I just want to add again, as far as CPC is concerned. I mean, I know we had that discussion. I mean, there is opportunity for us to join or to actually collaborate, so you don't reinvent the wheel. Obviously, so there is quite a bit of opportunities there to, depending on your time frame, to actually go out together and possibly explore other avenues. But I mean, most of the base work has been done. And especially even when we look at the business case, again, we could actually use our existing business case and update it rather than starting from scratch, and give you the basic information that would be required. But also I mean, we've kind of went through all the element of it. And again, it's really as far as building a project for yourself, if that's where you want to go, or you can build from an existing project, but then there's different avenues. The other aspect of it that is important, again, is what's the mandate of the organization, the institution. I mean, again, when we talk about greening renewable energy, there is some people that say, well, if you get direct value, then you're not really greening, because really you allow somebody else to emit carbon. But from our point of view, as far as school division, we believe that by building that additional capacity of renewable energy, we're doing our part. It's not our mandate to actually reduce greenhouse emission for the province or the country. Our objective was met because we all have fiscal constraint, obviously, that we have to deal with. So I just want to add this. So go ahead.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Really appreciate that. That the way that the RECs are used is kind of interesting. I mean, from my perspective, building that REC market and proving that exists, showing that it's going to provide value, and putting some liquidity into that market is also of tremendous value for folks who want to buy those RECs as well as use them. So that's an excellent point, and it is quite interesting. What I expect is there may be different perspectives by different institutions on what to do with those RECs. There are some institutions that are going to want to hold those RECs and retire them so that they can demonstrate their reduction in greenhouse gases, and some that will, in a financial position and kind of mandate wise, have a different perspective and want to see the financial value of those. So this is, I think, further down the road, but both those ways of approaching it would be great value if we can kind of be able to recognize both those and allow both of those to exist within the same consortium. That might, and maybe that won't be necessary. I think there's a lot of discussions to have, but to know that that's an option and understand we need to start thinking about that is really valuable.
And Donald, if I could add a comment to that. As Francois mentioned, they monetize the value of their RECs through an 8-year contract initially, but the project is 25 years in life and length. So the optionality to recall those RECs and retire them is part and parcel to the project. So it does actually recognize what you just noted about some parties may want to recall them and be considered green and retire them, and other parties may want to monetize them depending on whether or not they have a mandate either handed to them from government down to the mush sector, or whether it's a voluntary obligation that they want to take upon themselves. So they do have the flexibility. They did contract the first 8 years because there was a window where we didn't see the need to retire them. There was no mandate coming their way. So it was a way, as Francois pointed out, to be fiscally responsible and reduce their costs as much as possible. But that optionality is there.
Excellent. And it's so great to hear. All these questions can kind of come up, and sometimes it can be difficult to have an answer, but you guys have done all that work and can tell us, yeah, this is how it works and this is how we've set up, and really anticipate the questions that we have. So it's tremendous, and I really appreciate that.
The
Yeah.
other thing, sorry, the other thing that I could add too is to that point is there's some other parallel processes within the MUS sector from the municipalities in particular are in a parallel process as we speak, going out to the market for a significant volume. So there's opportunities to piggyback even on those, bringing much of the MUS sector together, which is viewed by the retail market as very similar in nature. Municipalities, hospitals, schools, and secondary educations because of your creditworthiness. And that is a significant component to be leveraged by your community to get the best price possible. And again, that was the underlying part of what drove the economics of Francois' Bull Creek project, is having the CPC and the schools behind it significantly reduced the financing costs of the project, which made it more economic at the time. So aggregating your group together and paralleling with the likes of the municipalities has huge economic benefits and strength going to market.
It's an excellent point. That is, I think that's what we kind of all see, and it's great to hear that that is actually the case. But one of the issues that kind of plays into that as well is, I mean, there's some of our organizations, institutions that have their contracts coming up and they know they need to renegotiate. I don't think that all of them are going to at the same time, but if we can establish a process and continue to prove out the way that it can save money and it can also save emissions, that we'll see growing interest and probably stage, particularly as we reach out to potential members and groups that might want to join with us. I mean, the municipality thing sounds great. It also sounds, it brings an aspect of complexity, but as we prove this all out and create the structures and create the ways of engaging, like this group, it'll get easier and easier. We'll say these are the steps you have to go through, and I think largely you've already proven that out, and it'll get easier and easier and more straightforward to get more and more, because I think that's the direction it's going. More and more institutions and types of similar publicly funded, very stable, financially proven organizations on board.
And then I think, having existing contract expiring at different time is really not a showstopper. I mean, in our project, we have 3 school divisions that actually are joining us, in 3 or 4 years, because again, they had a long-term contract already. So again, having different time is certainly not a showstopper. But as Dwayne has said, I think I didn't realize that, but one of the big component of pricing for electricity is not the generation cost, it's the financing costs. And again, especially as we're talking about the interest rate going up as we speak, having the credit for school division or colleges and university, and I'm not sure about municipalities anymore in some cases, I'm just kidding. But I mean, as far as the terms, again, the interest rate that actually are going to be charged by the financial institution are going to change drastically depending on the credit worthiness of who actually is signing the PPA, the long-term PPA. So, and that's a huge factor as far as the price is concerned.
And sadly, in the traditional contracting process, municipalities, schools, and other MUSH sector participants, hospitals and such, have been taken advantage of, quite frankly, by the retail community, because they don't give you any benefit for your creditworthiness, but they certainly go to their banks and leverage those contracts to seek more funding themselves, which they take benefit of. So by going to the market yourself, you can actually make sure that that's taken account of and reduced in your price that you're receiving.
Oh, that's interesting. Excellent.
Yeah,
that makes a tremendous amount of sense. And I think also, each individual institution has good credit rating because of how they're affiliated with provincial funding and other really steady sources of funding. And then as a group, it actually creates quite a bit of diversity of sources and approach. I mean, I guess the provincial government is a main source, but it does create a bit of diversity as well that only increases the stability of the whole financial kind of approach.
That's right.
So that all makes a lot of sense. Excellent. I'm sure there's other things to add. Are there any questions that that anybody has that they'd like to make sure they address? Be great to hear from the group. I can check the chat as well. Anything there? Okay.
I had one.
Yeah, I see
I
that.
threw in the chat there. What are the RECs, a megawatt hour of generation projected to be worth in 23? Ballpark.
So the price of carbon in 2023 is going to be $65 a megawatt hour, or sorry, $65 a ton. That translates through a REC at 0.5 tons per megawatt hour. So you have to do a little mental gymnastics there to come up with a number, which I'm not doing in my head. But then there's a transactional discount that takes place between what those numbers net to in terms of $1 per megawatt hour. And there's usually a transactional discount when you're doing a long-term contract with a counterparty, such as what the Blue Earth project has done on behalf of the school divisions. So that historically has been a 10 or 15% discount from the rack rate of the carbon costs through the emission intensity that's associated with 1 megawatt hour of electricity produced by a wind farm. But those discounts are actually rising through time into 24 up to 2030. And it's because of the increase in the amount of renewables that are coming online. So the supply is increasing of the RECs available to the market. The other thing that's happening is the demand for those RECs is declining because we are actually removing large emitters of carbon, and that's the coal-fired power generation, which was the #1 purchaser of these kinds of offsets. So they're declining as we reduce from coal to natural gas. So they'll still have emissions, and they'll have some obligation to offset those going forward. So the carbon price is rising, as everyone is probably aware, to $170 a ton by 2030. That's soon to be cemented into legislation at the federal level that will likely be unchanged by any change in government. And then it's the intensity of the grid is declining, as I said, because as large emitters come off within the electricity grid, the emission intensity comes down. So it's gonna bottom out somewhere around 0.3 tons per megawatt hour, multiplied by $170 per ton. That gives you a $55 or so dollars per megawatt hour in 2030. And then the transactional discount against that. So it could be $40, it could be $35, it could be higher depending on the supply-demand balance of RECs at that point in time and what the market's willing to pay for. So we've done a lot of study work on that, that we can give a lot of fundamental analytics to the carbon market to kind of answer that question as time goes forward. But it's basically, these are over-the-counter transactions that are negotiated with some other party that needs to take these offsets into their portfolio to reduce their footprint. So long-winded answer, I apologize.
No, I appreciate that. I think that the carbon price that the federal government has instituted is kind of the base, and then it kind of works from there depending on these the value in the market and whatnot. And fundamentally, I mean, it can be used to offset the cost per megawatt hour of your consumption. So it's going to go up, but it's maybe not going to go up because of some other pressures on that price, it sounds like.
That's right. Yeah.
Are there any other questions that folks were interested in talking about or putting to the group? We've had a good discussion. I think we've gone through a lot of different information. I hope this has been of use. We still have a bit of time left, but we've used up a lot of our time. So I really appreciate that. I think that we've talked to this. I think from my perspective, and maybe from some of the group, is kind of next steps. And you spoke to those, I believe, in many ways, Francois, in terms of needing to do a business case, and that existing business case being able to just be simply updated with the more up-to-date information, putting together, making sure that the infrastructure is in place to manage this. And the CPC has some capacity for that. Obviously, the work with our consultant makes a lot of sense. And Sustainable Campus Collaborative can also play a role in that, having brought the group together. So I think from my perspective, starting to line up those things, given that assuming that we get enough interest from folks in these meetings, and then through that process of making sure that the business case is appropriate, starting to actually calculate how much we're willing to put on the table in terms of how much generation we'd like, and looking at different options for that. So I think there's going to be a number of different options, like you suggested, expanding existing potential generation, potentially considering new projects, looking to these developers who have projects, and Blue Earth would be one of those, doing a request for information and starting to go through that process. Obviously, it's going to take us months to kind of get through, but starting to have these conversations, and consider what each of our institutions are really wanting to do. One of the issues that comes up a little bit is, we do have some participation even in this call today from University of Regina. They didn't attend, but they may be coming on in our next event that's on a Monday in a couple of weeks. UBC has signed up to attend. And I don't know if they're interested in actually participating, or they're just curious about how it might work. There could be some unique issues, I think, when we start to get cross-border that we might have to investigate, but I'm sure we'll find ways through those. Do you have any comments on that kind of framework or approach, or how we should start to approach this?
No, I think Donald, again, the first time is you need to figure out again. I'm not that familiar with the group and whatever it is. Well, you need to find out if there's an interest for people to move forward and to whether it's their entire portfolio or portion of it. And again, I know that when we talk about renewable, people talk about solar and whatever it is, but you're still going to need to go and buy additional power. That's going to offset. That's going to reduce your power consumption a little bit. And again, if that's the case, then again, I think the first step again is that, and I'm not talking on behalf of Dwayne or whatever it is, but you do need to, your first request for RFP is going to be for a consultant, someone who knows the market, because it's quite complex. And again, I think you need to go out and find the right consultant. And again, in my own experience, again, and from Dwayne's point of view, is a consultant, but he's also our partner. So you need to find someone who actually is willing to partner with you, and to help you through this process, because you need to really have a very good understanding of the market in Alberta, which is quite complex. And again, and then because there's a lot of information that needs to be gathered, you need to gather all your if you want to build a business case, you'll need to find out the consumption, the number of sites, and again, there's a way to gather that information that again is available to people who have access to this information. And again, you want to have someone that actually has that experience. And again, that's really the first step, and then move forward. At the same time, I think it can be non-committal. Obviously, you need to find out where you're going, and that's where the partnership with the CPC is available. If you wanted to skip some of those steps, again, joining this, partnership with the CPC, we've done a lot of those. Even from a consulting business, you could actually potentially reduce your timeline by quite a bit if there was actually some kind of a partnership with us as far as sharing a lot of that information. But like I said, it's really a discussion that you need to have between your group. And again, I don't want to be part of that discussion, and nor should Dwayne be part of the discussion, but that's some of the options that I think you need to look at.
Excellent. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Appreciate that overview. And I think that's why we're talking with you, is that, makes the most sense, is to take advantage of all the work that you guys have done and the expertise that you've built up. And so that definitely is one of the highest priorities. So I appreciate that. One of the interesting things that I remember from our last conversation is and the conversation often comes up is you're using, you know, the power purchase agreement that you've done is with a wind project, not with solar. And that's, from my understanding, largely because the profile of that wind generation matches the consumption of post-secondaries or of educational institutions relatively well. So I don't know if you can.
Yeah, and then we're not done. I think Dwayne, I mean, can speak a little bit more. I mean, we're looking right now at maximizing or reducing our firming costs and looking again. We have new contracts coming in and possibly expanding our renewable energy by different options. And then Dwayne can certainly add a little bit more to it. So we're still active. And just starting with some of that work. So again, there could be some synergy here for sure.
Yeah, Donald, to answer your question, in aggregate, sort of on an annual diurnal basis, the wind farm profile produces more energy in the winter, less in the summer. And typically that profile in and of itself kind of fits the school board consumption profile. The difference is, of course, when you drill down into a daily profile, the wind farm tends to produce a little less during on-peak and a little more in off-peak as the schools are coming off. So that creates the surpluses and shortfalls that Francois had pointed to. So the magic of the megawatt size of the wind farm is 29.2 megawatts or whatever it turned out to be. That produces enough energy annually to equal what the school divisions would use during the half-life of the project. So school divisions were consuming less than what the wind farm was producing early on, and the project started producing power January 1, 2016. As the school boards have continued to grow, they're absorbing the amount of energy that they consume from the wind farm. So the surpluses and shortfalls are reducing. And as Francois was pointing out, by mid-year 2013, or year 13 and a half, which is mid-year of the 25-year life of the wind project, it was anticipated that if schools grew at the rate that they were historically growing and projected to continue to grow, and we used a conservative number when we did all that math, that the school divisions would use exactly what the wind farm produced. Now, the wind farm stays static in terms of its capacity. So now we're anticipating, as Francois was alluding to, as we speak now, that's only 3 or 4 or 5 years away, that turning point. So there's a need to supplement the capacity of that wind farm with potentially some additional supply resource. So the wind farm was chosen at the time because wind technology was sort of at its mature. It was maturing quite nicely, and solar technology was still quite immature and expensive at the time. But that's changed. So there's a need potentially to optimize the energy mix for schools by adding some solar to the project. So that's one of the projects that's on our plate, to continue to work with the CPC Management Committee to analyze that and look at what a possible good solution might be to meet their future energy needs, and to bring some new technology in that would kind of balance the firming costs associated with the hourly differences during the day, when they might be buying energy when they're short and selling energy when they're long, and they're selling it at the prevailing market price, which always, sometimes it's in your favor and sometimes it's not. So, you know, it does create an additional cost. It was expected to create an additional cost, but actually what we're finding in today's market is that the school divisions are now benefiting from that, because prices tend to be higher throughout the day the last couple of years for a variety of reasons. So it's benefiting them that way. But anyway, these are a bunch of the parts of the equation that's our job on their behalf to look into and try and find an optimal economic solution to it. So that creates opportunity in terms of what you guys are doing, again, to piggyback on some of the work that they will be doing.
Absolutely. It's so excellent to hear, and that all makes so much sense. What I can imagine too, I've been working with a professor at University of Calgary who's got patent relative to vanadium, and we've been working with potential suppliers of, and I know NMAX is looking into this. Battery storage may not be appropriate right now. It may be getting close to be, particularly depending on the economics of it and the economic development opportunities. You know, if we can source very low cost vanadium provincially, and then it also then provides really interesting economic development benefits, that's something that's unique probably to the post-secondaries that can be a priority for them. So, that could play an interesting role as well if if that's something we start to look at, or it's part of the whole package.
Yeah, and batteries or technology is probably in the place where solar was when we were doing wind. So you're quite right. They're going to advance, and they're one of the technologies certainly to watch going forward. And there's a lot of pilot projects that are that have been built recently and sort of in coming in the near future. So yeah, that's a very good technology to be watching, because it helps balance the resources that are available from renewable technologies.
Exactly. Yeah, it plays that important role around the balancing, particularly short term for lithium ion, kind of daily. But if you start getting to vanadium, it can be a little bit more long term, and then it increases. As long as they're financially viable, it increases the financial stability and potential of the whole project, while also providing this interesting twist that the post-secondaries bring to this, where they want to engage their students and researchers. So that becomes another consideration that can help increase the likelihood of going ahead. So we're right at about time right now. Can quickly ask if there's any questions. If you don't have them right now, if it comes up, please feel free to send them to me. I'd be happy to talk about those. And we do have that next meeting coming up in just a week or so. And again, everybody is welcome to come to that. We may be able to push the conversation forward a little bit. I also appreciate Francois and Dwayne for your expertise in this and your time, and everybody for making the time to attend. I'm hoping actually to touch base, Francois and Dwayne. Maybe we can talk a little bit offline about some of the issues that we brought up. I think there's lots of ways we can cooperate. Any other comments that anybody wants to make or discussion? I hope it was useful for everybody. And please let other, if you know that there's folks who aren't at this meeting, I'm going to record this and send it out. So that's a resource. But if folks can't attend one of them but are interested in it, let them know they can reach out to me as well. I'm really happy to share information and get everybody on board. I think it's a real opportunity, particularly for the institutions who it is an opportunity for, and they would tend to know who they are. This can really change how you manage your energy and achieve greenhouse gas emissions objectives, and help your students at local economic development. There's a lot of ways this is really strong potential win for your communities. Yeah, thanks. Any last minute comments anybody like to make, or questions? Things come up. Great. Thanks, everybody. Thanks again, Francois and Dwayne. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Have a great day.
Okay, thanks.